I want to, we brought up Sde Teiman and the consequences of what happened there. Matthew Charles, CNN's international correspondent, had a very important investigation. And in this excerpt that we originally aired back in May, in this excerpt, he talks to an Israeli doctor who told CNN about the treatment of Palestinians at this Sde Teiman detention camp. And I'm going to play this little extract. Remember, this is an Israeli doctor talking to him.
The problem is, Gazans who are brought in are labeled as terrorists, and it is very popular opinion over here that terrorists deserve to die, so they do not deserve the same medical care as everyone else.
Satellite imagery obtained by CNN shows how the Sde Teiman facility was expanded after the October 7th attacks, with detention facilities and makeshift medical bays being added after public hospitals in Israel refused to treat injured Gazan suspects. Eyewitness accounts describe a field hospital with 15 to 20 patients, virtually naked and blindfolded, with hands and feet shackled to their beds and wearing diapers.
So this is consistent with what you say is a systematic pattern, especially since October 7th. Do you think that it's about revenge, as some have suggested?
I think it also have to do with revenge. I think many of the feelings that Israelis, including me, have since October 7th, we're all walking around with this trauma and this anxiety inside us. And what I see now is that our government is taking advantage, cynically taking advantage of this fear and anxiety that we're all in order to implement their unbelievable racist, fascist agenda towards Palestinians. And in that sense, the public discourse here is sometimes very hard to hear and very hard to listen. And I'm sure revenge is something that is very much instilled into us, almost by our government, almost as a framework of how we are doing things. This is our conception of security. The way we keep us secure is to abuse, to kill, to distract how much as we can of the Palestinian people. And that's a quite devastating state to be in as a society, because of what's happening today, but also when I think about the future and where we are heading.
So Yuli Novak, now for the Israeli response. Obviously, we have sought response from the Israeli authorities. In this case, we have received response from the Israeli prison service, which is responsible for these detention centres. Here's what they told us today. We are not aware of the claims you described, and as far as we know, no such events have occurred under IPS responsibility. Nonetheless, prisoners and detainees have the right to file a complaint that will be fully examined and addressed by official authorities. They went on to say this. Since October 7th, 2023, as instructed by Minister Ben-Gvir, the prison conditions of the national security prisoners have been made strict in accordance with the minister's policy of stopping the improved prison conditions they have received in the past. Now, as you know, and perhaps our viewers know, Itamar Ben-Gvir is the extreme right-wing, one of the authorities that are in coalition that keep the Netanyahu government propped up, and he has been made Minister of National Security. He has also said since October 7th that he is proud that during my time we have changed all the conditions, i.e. in the prison services, where they have deteriorated sharply. So what is your response to this response, and how personally responsible Ben-Gvir might be?
So first of all, I'm ashamed as an Israeli to hear that, because they can file a complaint to who? To the guards that just beat them up? To who? When? When those prisoners are brought to a judge, to a court, it's by video. That's a legislation that the Israeli government made. So it's by video, and the guards are standing here, and some testimonies we hear that the guards are beating them and flattening them just before they are approaching the judge not to say anything. So that's completely ridiculous, and really it's amazing to see that they have the boldness to react that way. But more than that, you know, we're talking about Ben-Gvir, and that's amazing. He's proud. This, you said right wing, it's the most extreme. You cannot go farther in the far right than Ben-Gvir. And this is the person who got the responsibility over the police and the prison system, two of the state apparatus, state systems that have the most potential to be violent and cruel. And this man who stood up and showed his agenda, you know, his racist, violent, sadistic agenda, and then just seize the moment and change the whole thing according to that agenda with the other parts of, you know, the legal gatekeepers, the parliament, the government itself, all backing him up or turning a blind eye and let this thing happen. So, I don't know, I have no trust and no any trust in the Israeli government to investigate this, to even react to this. They've proven us once and again and again and again in the last month that they care nothing, not about human rights and not about human dignity or human life. It's the same you just talked about. It goes to the Israeli hostages, Israeli citizen hostages that are held in Gaza, and this government, including Ben-Gvir, doing whatever they can in order to make sure they won't be back alive. And it goes to the treatment of Palestinians in Israeli jails that became torture camps in practice.
So the IDF response to this is that it operates according to international law and Israeli law, protecting the rights of detainees in its facilities. And we have a list of what it has said, like it categorically rejects allegations of systemic abuse, including sexual abuse in its detention facilities. Again, detainees are provided with 3 meals a day, maintained hygiene, regular showers, clean clothes, and adequate medical care. It goes on to say other things. But I specifically asked retired Major General Guy Zur yesterday if these allegations, particularly the ones at Sde Teiman, were proven, and there are, as I say, Israeli soldiers under house arrest, what should happen? And this is what he said.
Every soldier that does something that is not legal to a terrorist or other enemy should be punished very hard in order to broadcast to our soldiers and to strengthen the morale of our soldiers. No doubt about it, it's unbelievable that we got to these places, but it's still a minority of extremists that we should take them out of our society.
So that was the view of at least one IDF retired official who I spoke to, and I know what your view is, but I want to ask you this. In the past, you know, Btselem has been incredibly investigative and has for decades been revealing all sorts of abuses. You once had to leave. It was after you were executive director of Breaking the Silence. You've been labeled a traitor. How do you keep doing this work? How do you face, you know, the obvious anger, I assume, from a large part of Israeli society, particularly after October 7th?
Because I mean, what other choice do I have? This is my country. This is my home. That's where my family is. And I think that goes for me and for all my partners and colleagues and team. You know, we're Jews and Palestinians who believe in human rights, in justice, in freedom. And I don't think any of us have any other choice but to do what we're doing. It is scary. It does have a price tag on it, especially for our Palestinian comrades who are super bravely do this work, including working on this report. I would never understand their bravery and how much they are willing to sacrifice for doing that.
Yeah.
But I think we are all doing that just because, we don't have a choice. This is our home, and we need to fight over it.
Yuli Novak, thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening.